I hereby call this meeting to order. It is 6:02 p.m. Let's go ahead and get started with roll call. We can start on my right.
Jessica Ochoa, present.
Carlos Margo, present.
Alisa Peña, present.
Celso Gomez Jr., present.
Rosalba Hernandez, present.
Valeria Vega, present.
Great. Now, if you are able to do so, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is public comments. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. Do we have any individuals that are registered for public comments today?
We have no public comment today.
All right, and let the record show that it is 6:03 and Board President Julian Alvarez is on the dais.
Great. Okay, we have the superintendent's update. Unfortunately, she's not here. We do know that she has other things that she's attending to, so she'll be right with us. What else do we have, Doctor? Oh, we have Merced Crespo. So agenda item number 5, again, superintendent's update announcements. Updates on items 5.5 budget priorities 3 and 4. Ms. Crespo, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, Board. Good evening, community. Today, we are completing our review of the budget priorities for the 26-27 budget development. So, of course, we are focusing on strategic investment for student success, and that is the work we are going to see today. Always anchoring ourselves on vision, mission, goals, and our North Star goal, and our strategic plan, and our 5 priorities. The budget priorities 3 and 4, just to refresh, is part of the items that we have created for concentrating and stimulating our community or stakeholders to think of what we need to sustain and improve our student performance. The 2 priorities that we are reviewing today are access to student support and after-school activities, and operational innovation, investment, and sustainability. If you remember last time when we talked about budget priorities, the intention of this is being able to support and show the community that we are centering our decisions around the things that are priority around the community. Expand what we call access to student support and after-school activities. Expand opportunities that directly support student well-being, engagement, and achievement. And operational innovation, investment, and sustainability to innovate operational systems and processes to improve service quality, modernize infrastructure, and ensure long-term sustainability. Oh, sorry. Got it. Sorry. Okay. I want to emphasize that we are centering during this development on a stakeholder voice. We went around with the superintendent advisory groups, including teachers, principals, parents, and students. And here is a cute picture of our students working with us. And we found consistent themes across all the groups that we talked to on what do we want to invest the funds, what was the priority for them, and where they see the district prioritizing when we are working on investments, on investing the funds in our activities. So what we have been asked to address. In reference to student experience, with the students, the parents, the teachers, the principals, talk about gaps in academics and emotional SEL support, so emotional support. Desire for more extended learning experiences, and increasing student needs support, like academic needs, post-secondary needs, mental health, and leadership. For the system and the observations we have, and you have seen some of that in our audits, but also the reflection for our stakeholders, they talk about inefficiencies in process, manual systems that impede or support or improvement on processes, need for stronger controls and scalability, long-term plans and sustainability, and improvement on needed services delivery for current staff members in support roles. So what we are proposing in these 2 areas, Some of the items that we have been we are working on in the budget, support improving student support services, focusing on mental health and multi-tier systems of support, improve extended learning opportunities for students at all ages, all grades, align career pathways and work-based learning opportunities for our students in high schools, increase extracurricular access for all our students, and improve that assistance that improve outcomes and visibility. What we observe, what we track is what it gets improved and we can work on. In the side of operational innovation, investment, and sustainability, some of the things that we are seeing in the budget are around improving systems and reporting tools to ensure that the data is transparent, is clear, and we know what we're talking about. Addressing staffing capacity and challenges, increase long-term financial forecasting, invest in technology to increase not only access, but strategic use, make it future-based, developing sustainability planning, and delivering a long-range facility master plan. What these proposals will enable the district for our students, increase access to supports, that's the first thing they have been asking us to, improve engagement, stronger academic outcomes, and academic interventions and accelerations to support our students in improving their performance. For the district as a whole, this will provide more efficient operations, stronger financial controls, increased culture and accountability, capacity to reinvest in classroom and campuses, intentional recruitment, hiring, and retention efforts. These are investments. These are efforts and that are designed not only to support students directly, but to ensure that we have operational strength and that sustain any support and any change that we are implementing during this transition time. Of course, we are centering in financial discipline and accountability. We have been keeping our guardrails through the whole process, ensuring, of course, that we are doing a balanced budget, prioritizing around everything around the strategic plan, with focusing on student outcomes, concentrating on academic return of investment, ensuring that we know what we are measuring and what we are tracking through these implementations, so we can monitor and increase accountability. That is one of the things that we want to ensure, so we are fiscally responsible on the investments for the district. What it means for us. We want to be sure that we respond to our stakeholders, that we are responsible with the finances, but we are responsible with activities that we implement. We want our students to receive needed support and become academically and holistically successful. We want systems that are reliable and efficient, modern systems. We want resources that are used strategically and responsible, and we will be able to show the community what are our our finances and expenditures are consistent, transparent, and our reporting is focused on what is the results and decision-making is effective. We are committed to deliver an educational excellence for every student. That is our mission, and that's what we want to achieve. That is my presentation for today, and that is our commitment for the year, for this budget. Any questions?
Any questions from Rajat, from the board? No.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing that we have none, thank you, Marjette. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is 5.2. This is our summer programs overview. This will be done by Derek Little, Dr. Little, or Ms. Candelaria? Candelaria?
You're stuck with me. You're
We'll
stuck
say-
with me.
Okay, good. No, that's fine. Thank you very much. You may proceed.
No problem. Good evening, board president, board, and soon-to-be Dr. Sorensen. I'm excited to share about La Jolla's summer program for the 2026 summer. So first off, why join summer programming at La Jolla ISD? Why some students may be choosing to sit on the couch, we're going to have our students launching drones, writing code, and getting college ready. Every single program is free to our enrolled students. No family has to choose between costs and enrichment here at La Jolla. We're not just preventing summer slide, but we're also accelerating the momentum that we've been building this school year, all the way from pre-K3 to 12th grade. In elementary, our highlights are the ADSI STEAM Camp, giving our youngest learners 2 hours of hands-on STEAM every single day. Inventors Unleashed, making academics feel like an adventure. Our pre-K bilingual program meets emergent bilingual students exactly where they are, building language and math skills together. We support all students during this program. No student is left out. We are providing our students with dyslexia, special education, migrant 504, and support programs across our programs. For middle school, we'd like to highlight the Meet and Masters STEAM Tech Camp, which puts 3D printers, laser engravers, and drones in students' hands, skills that will matter in every career in the future. We are teaching innovation, entrepreneurship, and communication, not just technical skills, but things that they can set and change their mindset about their career and future. Our Gear Up grant services are also available during middle school, and they are woven in between meaning college readiness and also summer fun. In high school, our P-Tech Summer Bridge gives incoming 9th graders a running start before they start their school year for college readiness and to see what it looks like. We also have our CTE Summer Bridge that connects a real career pathways that continuing their exploration throughout their school year. We also have our STC Kata camps that are with drone, robotech, and HVAC, which give our GT and CTE students industry-grade experience that usually they don't get until college. Our early college programming utilize the Text Prep, which is partnered with our UT RGV, which is a gateway to engineering and science careers. It's a really point of pride of our summer programming. The early college programs at Jimmy Carter keep dual credit students on track, ensuring that they are ready to earn college hours and not scrambling to catch up. And of course, our extended school year for our special education students as well, which reflects our commitment to students with individualized needs. So just a brief overview of our summer program bell schedule. We worked really intentionally as a summer committee to ensure that times are varied for transportation purposes, also to ensure our students are getting breakfast as well. And parents are able to also, if they have different students at different levels, in order to get them to their point of places for summer. So next steps, this is what summer programming looks like, and it is super excited for every student to really earn the right to enrichment. And so we are asking staff to identify students, to connect with families, and to get them registered, because we are ready, our programs are ready for them. And so now we just need students in the seats. So we just have a full possibilities for the start of this summer, and it starts in the next 9 days. We really need to ensure our students continue to register, our staff apply, and the key deadline here is April 17th. There we have our parent and staff registration closing, and so we have 9 days to really continue to build this momentum up. So again, our summer is really full of possibilities here for La Jolla summer programming. Any questions?
Any members of the board questions for Ms. Candelario? Yes, Dr. Margot.
Thank you, Ms. Candelario. Just, and overall, how many seats are we talking about? Just curious, if you have an estimated number of individuals that will go to these summer programs in total.
So currently, right now, we have about 2,500 students that are already registered for summer programming. We are looking, our goal number is 65% of our student population. So we have a ways to go, but we are heavily recruiting, and we have full team to do that at our campuses.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members? Yes.
I have a question. So I'm looking at the elementary, what's being offered at the elementary level. Do the students or the parents have a say in what they want to enroll, or is it each week a mix of everything, or how?
So there is a set schedule, and then each week there's a different theme.
Oh, thank you.
Good question. I remember going to this last year, so it was a lot of fun. So we've enjoyed it
Really
in the
excited.
past. We've enjoyed it. Any other members have questions? Ms. Ochoa?
Ms. Candelaria, how does this differ from last year enrollment thus far?
That's a great question. Since I wasn't here last year, it's going great. Would you like that?
Yeah, I'll help out with this one for some historical context, Board Member Ochoa. So last year, we ended up with about 3,500 students actively participating in all of the summer programs combined. With the time that we have left in registration, we certainly think we're going to get more than that total. We have some specific pushes left to do, particularly in our secondary spaces. So those numbers will rise. And then to the elementary question earlier, that's a really great fun experience. So helping families to understand that this is something that you really want your child participating in, they're going to benefit from it while they're having a ton of fun. So all of those numbers will climb. At the end of the day, I think we will exceed last number's participation overall.
Thank you.
Board Member Ochoa, if I could add, Board President, are you
Yes,
okay with
please.
that, please? I also think it's really important, and I apologize for walking in late, but I was at one of my after the bell conversations at Memorial Middle School. But really think it's important to add some shifts in practice that we want to talk about across the district. So I appreciate Dr. Little lifting up the high school space. So historically in the district, if students were not successful during the school year in classes, we would just program them next year, year after year after year, creating sections, almost like planning for failure. We would see master schedules, say with like 10 sections, just in case kids failed English 2, say for example. And so we're trying to reculture the district where there isn't a consequence immediately for not passing a course. You don't pass a course, you go to summer school. We can't continue as a district to just plan for failure. First of all, we've got to do everything that we can on the front end to support students. Then if you don't fail, if you don't pass, you go to summer school and you make it up, and you make it up immediately. This isn't something that you're carrying credit deficient year after year after year, and or we just continue to program you into a class that you failed repeatedly for years. And so we have to spend more time with our counselors, understanding that that's our new way of working. We have to communicate that very firmly with families. Because again, students need to understand that it's important to pass your classes, and it's important to pass them the first time around. And so that is a shift in practice for our district, where again, historically, we would just have a lot of extra spaces in our master schedule for makeup classes. Not saying we won't have any, but on average, we would plan for about 3 FTE per course, just for failure. And so we can't do that anymore. We have to expect more of children. We have to expect more of ourselves. And so we have to provide the supports over the summer for students to have the opportunity to make that up.
Ms. Candelari, what I love about this program is it's going to be fun to go to summer school, right? I mean, what a transition from, if you went to summer school, you were failing, but here it seems like it's a kind of a reward. I'm curious, do we have a FIRST robotics team? I think I asked that question before. And I'm curious if they're participating in this.
We do have students that do UIL robotics. They do participate in a variety of events. These are more exposure opportunities for students, so maybe I've never done that before, but that's something I can start to try out within the summer programming.
No. I was just curious if we had that, because they could serve as mentors, right? Or even their projects that they worked on all year to maybe showcase them during this time. It was just a thought.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Just a thought. Any other members have questions for Ms.
I have a
Candelari?
question. So I
Yes.
see that it's free for all the La Jolla ISD students. How about students that are not enrolled here? Are they available to come, maybe test it out, see how fun La Jolla is?
Right.
It is for La Jolla ISD students only, so we certainly are in the season of encouraging everyone who wants to be a La Jolla ISD student that now is the time to enroll. It is not open, though, if you are not a district student.
Thank you.
Maybe I missed this. What is, if a student, since Dr. Sorensen mentioned it, and it made a lot of sense, I mean, it was great remarks. If a student isn't doing well, what are the requirements like in order to be eligible for such a program?
At the elementary and middle school levels, the requirements are fairly loose from a state perspective. It's really what we are encouraging and advocating for families to do for children in general. Certainly, like we took STAR reading today, it is ongoing. If students get their results back and they're not successful, so they do not meet their requirements for STAR, we directly encourage those students to attend the summer programs because this is really important time for additional learning to make sure that they're ready for the start of next school year. You can have a student, though, that achieve masters on STAR and certainly participate as well. The high school programs, though, are much more targeted. They are specifically focused either on students who have not been able to successfully pass the course and or pass the relevant end of course exam. And we have a lot of enrichment and acceleration opportunities that Ms. Candelario talked about as well. Got tongue-tied. So there's really a whole range of spaces, but those are much more designated based on the student's specific needs and interests at that point in their academic career.
You have any questions? Ms. Ochoa?
I was just going to make a comment. I think I remember in the town halls, we did hear parents ask about enrichment opportunities, right? So saying, hey, my student is in the gifted program. You know, we traditionally think of summer school as, you know, just kind of enhancing what you didn't get to do during the year wherever you missed out. So I appreciate just kind of the ability to have these enrichment opportunities for our gifted students as well.
Yeah, great.
Ms. Ochoa?
Yes. I engaged with students recently who were requesting SAT prep during the high school summer program. Is that something that would be offered?
SAT specifically is not part of the core curriculum. However, we do have TSI camps. We have summer bridge camps for students entering the early college programs. And a lot of that content also helps you, whether it's the ACT or SAT, even though it's not a direct SAT prep course. But that will set you up for more success on those assessments.
Members? I love what you have rolled out. This is good, and I'm looking forward to this summer. I have one more question, and it's just something I was thinking of when we were talking about innovative and the programs that have existed in the past. Are there opportunities in these types of programs to include parents to maybe work with their kids? I don't know if many parents are home during the summer, but since it's maybe a week off, or it's during a week, I should say, maybe parents that are there, do we have any such programs where parents could participate with their children? in
The answer
events
is
like this?
sort of, and we're working on that more. So one of the specific things in the strategic plan is building out more opportunities, both directly for parents, separate from their children, and with their children. Ms. Candelario leads part of that work, so that's underway. It's not fully built out yet, but know that that's coming over the life of the strategic plan. The other thing I want to say is part of what we have built for this summer is also reflective of feedback we got from families last summer. So we met with families both before we launched the programs, during and after, got that feedback, have incorporated it into this. So our families are part of the design of what we're doing as well.
Great.
Board President. can I
Yes,
add?
Dr. Swanson.
Thank you. But also, and thank you, Dr. Little, for lifting that up. It's really important for all of our parents to know and understand, because it was a bit of feedback that we got from parents, was they wanted to know that this isn't just for struggling students, right? They want to make sure that if they are attending the summer program, say even in elementary, right? Especially, I think our elementary parents were probably the most vocal about it. They wanted to ensure that our students weren't just sitting there hour after hour after hour being drilled on test prep. They really wanted it to be an authentic learning experience. And so we've designed really strongly at the elementary program that there are times and spaces where we are reading and math and really working very intentionally on the grade level skills, and to make sure that during those spaces, like if you're a GT student, you're actually getting enrichment in content, right? It doesn't feel like remediation to a student who's at master's. And then there is all the programming, the enrichment program building throughout the day, because that was a piece that we heard from our parents very much, is they didn't want their students to just be locked into like one mode. They wanted it to actually be an authentic learning experience. And so we've built the day to match just that, to make sure that all kids along the learning continuum are getting fun and enrichment and enhancement, so that they end up where they need to be at the end of the summer to avoid that summer slide.
Thank you, Dr. Sorensen. I'm looking forward to it. And so I think please invite us all and please let us know when that's coming up. Thank you, Ms. Candelaria. Dr. Little, you have the next agenda item, Lone Star Governance, 6.1 enrollment and transfers update.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're actually going to tag team this. I'm going to do the first half, and Ms. Candelaria is going to do the second half. She's been deeply involved in helping to lead this work along with members of our team. We're coming back to do two things. One is to acknowledge that I didn't do all of the first thing in the way that we should have in terms of the policy revision. So we are asking you to make one additional policy change tonight to our transfer policy. So I'm going to lay out sort of what that is and why we're coming back to ask for it. And then number two, we want to transparently share with you and the community where we have ended up with transfer requests and decisions for next school year. So to start with, just quick overview of sort of where we are. We have gone through that re-enrollment process for all of our current families. Again, we are also actively any day enrolling students who are new to the district and want to come back to or for the first time join La Jolla ISD. So everyone should know that we are still active in enrollment for new and returning students. The big focus for tonight's discussion is on the transfer requests and the results of that processing. Over 9,000 transfer requests were submitted within the district. So we're going to break that down for you. And then want to revisit, again, the policy changes that we made. One is a reminder of what we've done to improve our process and our system. And then two, talk about the one additional change that we are seeking board approval on. At the end of the day, we are really trying to ensure that every school in La Jolla ISD is set up for success, that they have a robust population of students supported by really excellent faculty and staff and the community to ensure that we meet our student outcomes, which we're going to talk about later with the superintendent constraint schools. So all that we've been doing from a policy and a practice standpoint is meant to honor that ultimate vision for enrollment and transfers in general. As a quick reminder of what the board approved back in January, we came to you asking for some substantive adjustments to our enrollment and transfers policies and process. All of those really were meant to create better equity and a more streamlined process for families, number one, and then two, certainly for us as we process all of those requests and applications. We also wanted to ensure that we incorporated the latest information from TASB and TEA. It had been a number of years since these policies had been reviewed and revised, so we were able to make alignment updates there. And then to my point of ensuring that every school can be strong, that's part of what this is about. Certainly as we get into middle schools and in particular high schools, making sure that every campus has really great opportunities for students and that we're not just creating excellent spaces only at one place because that's where students are trying to transfer to for extracurricular athletic opportunities, but we're really building this notion of a good, strong, comprehensive high school that serves the students that live within that high school's boundaries. We'll talk about that more in a bit, but that's a real focus of what we've done through these transfer reviews. And then all of this meant to, and this is part of tonight's additional proposal, reduce burdens on families, just make the process easier and more straightforward. And we think with our additional request tonight, that's going to go even further. The last piece on here, the bottom right box, is super important because we have to ensure that transfer requests aren't creating staffing or budgetary burdens at the same time. So we work really carefully to ensure that we're honoring as much as our families and students are asking for without having to overload a campus with staff or create financial burdens that we can't sustain. So that's a bit of the balancing act that we go through as we're reviewing these requests. So this is a bit more detail on those policy changes that we made in January. I'll pull a few out as a reminder. One of the biggest things that we did differently this year was the timeline itself. We used to not even accept transfer requests until right now in April. That went through June. It made it very hard for families, and it made it very hard for our schools to adjust to that enrollment fluctuation, to know exactly where people were going to school, to be ready to staff that, and to have the right set of materials in the school for the number of students that were going to show up. So we moved that up earlier in the process to really match the time frame that we ask people to make decisions for next year, but also to set our campuses up in the planning for that. That helps with course scheduling, that helps with creation of master schedules, it helps with staffing, it helps with final budget planning. All of that was improved through that timeline adjustment. I'm going to skip the second one and call out a couple others, and then I'll come back. The other thing that we started to do at the high school level, and this will be related to our additional request, is to say once you start at a high school, you really need to finish at that high school. It's not good for the student, it's not good for the family to have to bounce around between high schools. So like once you begin, that's really where you need to graduate. So we didn't move students around as a result of, hey, this is a different place. We really wanted to honor that that's the program, that's the pathway to our other goal 4 GPMs in particular, where like you're gonna stay and you're gonna finish. The last two things that we did here at the bottom of the slide is just clarified what this means for like internal staff children. We certainly review those requests and honor as many as we can, but again, that's subject to space availability. And hardship transfers, this is one of the TEA alignments that we made with new TASB language on exactly what a hardship transfer is and how we review those on a case-by-case basis. The thing that we're bringing back to you tonight is really related to number 2. And that's the duration in which the transfer is approved. Long-standing history in La Jolla ISD is that you had to apply every year. So I had to apply, maybe I showed up as a kindergartner, I went to a different school as a transfer, and every year after that, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, I had to reapply. That just doesn't make sense from a family standpoint. You build that relationship, you build that connection, that's the school that you've committed to. And so as long as our policy criteria is met related to maintaining academic good standing, not having significant discipline issues, and showing up to school, we're not going to ask families to do that reapplication anymore if the board grants that additional approval tonight. So what's in this sort of pink box in the middle is the new language that we are proposing. And what it says is once you have a transfer application approved, that continues for that level of school as long as you continue to meet the requirements within the policy. So if I apply as a kindergarten student, I'm not going to have to apply as a transfer student again until potentially middle school if I'm not choosing to go to my home designated feeder school. So all throughout elementary, it's one application, then all throughout middle school, it's one application, and then all throughout high school, it's just that one application. So that's what we're asking you to revise tonight. Again, apologies that we didn't include this the first time. It really helped us to sort of pause and start looking at these applications more deeply as we were processing them to really realize we shouldn't be asking our families to do it this way because so many of the 9,000 are for students who are in a school that they've been in for a long time and they're only filling out the paperwork because we tell them they have to. And so we can remove that burden from our families. And then finally, before I hand it over to look at the results themselves, so just a few quick reminders that'll help frame the data that Ms. Candelario really goes through. When I talk about meeting the requirements in policy, there's 3 specific things that are called out there. The first is academic standing. You got to do your coursework. You got to be passing your classes. Like it is a privilege to be a transfer student, and you got to continue to maintain that privilege with your commitment to doing well at that school. Same thing for attendance. You're chronically absent, that's a problem. We know that we're deeply focused on improving chronic absenteeism in the district. That's what we expect of our transfer students as well, to show up and to do that every day. And then behavior is the third. You can't be a transfer student and go cause a ruckus at the school whenever you want, however often you want. You gotta honor the code of conduct, you gotta be in good standing. So if you're not in good standing in those 3 things, that's the only time that a student, once approved, may have to go back to their home school is if they are violating one of these 3 policy expectations. The other 3 things here are also equally important, and this is really how we're considering new transfer requests. I mentioned space. If the school is full, the classroom is full, we can't honor that request. Again, the rule of thumb here is a transfer student can't require us to have to add another staff member to the campus. So just because you're wanting to transfer in doesn't mean we're going to staff a whole nother teacher for that class, that grade level. UIL eligibility is part of that building strong schools. We're not going to let students, particularly at high school, transfer just because they want to go play on a particular team. We have great teams everywhere, and it's important that you're really sticking with your feeder pattern school, and we're building all of those programs. So we're looking for transfers that are particularly trying to get around UIL eligibility requirements. And then the last piece, which is part of any sort of documentation for the district, is you got to be honest in the submission. Like, addresses matter. We have feeder patterns in our districts. We have school boundaries. You just adjusted some of those with our school actions. That drives part of what we're doing in transportation. So folks have to, faithfully present what they are asking for and what the constraints and context of their family are through that process. All of that said, we also review these in a particular way. There is a prioritization as we go through these applications. This year, in any year where we have school action changes, that's going to be the first consideration. When the district is changing where you're able to go to school because of a school action, you then have first right to other places within the district. That JC lottery is just also a note that we have the Jimmy Carter lottery every year for the early college process. So that goes through the specific application process. That gets counted in these transfer numbers because that's not technically anyone's zone school, but that's really the application to the early college setting. And then, as we mentioned, if you're currently a transfer, you get to stay as long as you meet the criteria. If you have never been a transfer student before and you're at a school action student, that gets factored in as well. And then all the other new requests. So I decide that I want to change next year, even though I've been here at my zone school. Those come later down the line. And then our new to district students. The caveat I would say here is, again, we are always welcoming anyone who wants to join La Jolla ISD, and we are actively recruiting specifically for our pre-K babies right now, but for any grade level. It is time to enroll. It's time to come join the pack, and we certainly welcome you here at any point. So what we're going to do for the next few slides is Ms. Candelaria is going to actually show the data to you and sort of unpack how this played out with each of the decision points.
Thank you, Dr. Little. So first, I want to just point out that we had 99.25% of families completely registered during our window, which is really exciting, a strong outcome of the effectiveness of our district and our campus outreach efforts. It's important to note that we are still enrolling families. Families are coming back to us, and we anticipate some changes. We have our pre-K enrollment coming. We're going to get more students in. Students are coming back to us. I'm so excited to share that number to you as well. And the recruitment efforts are still occurring, where we are attending different events around the different cities. And we, you may see our enrollment bus around, and we are here and really trying to capture as many families as we can for next year. And the 1.2 is at the end of the window and our enrollment. As a team, we are really going to look at an impact report from outreach to the window to the transfer policy and what we can do better and how we can improve for next year. So our numbers these are our final internal transfer numbers, really. As Dr. Little mentioned, we had 9,224 transfer requests. But out of that number, there are some true transfer numbers. So the 2,761 were approved. We had 524 transfers denied, and then 5,939 were categorized as invalid. And what invalid meant was that a parent potentially applied for their own zone school, or they applied for the wrong grade level. And so those areas we marked as invalid. The other areas that we looked at is that we had a large number of families trying to apply like outside of their zone campus for like Jimmy Carter, for instance. With our current transfer numbers, you see a high rate of approval because of, just like Dr. Little mentioned, the board policy, we are keeping our students where they're at in their current transfers. For our school action transfers, we had students looking, 214 were approved. Those were students that chose not to go to their new zone school and requested an additional transfer. Before I continue on, as a reminder, we are still holding true to our policy with criteria. So if our students didn't meet it through academics, as well as attendance or discipline, UIL, or any kind of falsification. Those did play into factor when we were reviewing these. Our new transfers, so those are in-district students that are choosing to move to another school. We did approve 77 approved for that. And so you'll start seeing a lower approval rate as we're really holding firm to our new policy and ensuring that our students all students are really spaced out to every school and not just a select school. And then also our new transfers returning to district is 39. And then 21 denied. But I want to point out that we did not deny our own students from our campus. We just denied the students from going to a different campus other than their zone. So I'll speak in a little bit about our students returning back to us that did apply for those transfers as well. And then the last part with our specialty schools were our students that were applying for Jimmy Carter, but are either were not part of the lottery as well, or they just chose the wrong school. And then of course, some families did complete the transfer application and didn't need to. And so we had about a little over 4,000 families apply for a transfer and didn't warrant a transfer. So looking at our data, as I mentioned, we had quite a few transfer numbers. And so I want to call out 4 really big trends that we saw through the data dive that we did. There was a concentration of select campuses chosen for a transfer. So specifically in these campuses were Camarena, Memorial, and Palmview. Approving those requests would have improved such requests would undermine the whole point of building strong campuses. And so we were really intentional about denying specific areas to ensure that all schools were strong schools. The incoming 6th and 9th grade transitions, that was another large number that we had that came from students wanting to transition out of their zoned school to a different middle or high school. We denied these specific requests because we want to keep students in their zone feeder schools. The only separation to that is the P-TECH if they chose a P-TECH or a specialty program at another campus. Another third trend is that we saw that school action transfer families, there was about a little over 1,100 families applied for transfers, and including out of those were about 337 true transfers, which 64% of those transfers were approved by us. So what we were trying to balance there was a strong demand for school choice, but also really staying aligned to the board policy. And the last box, which I think is a very exciting box, is that we had a total of 145 students returning back to La Jolla campuses, really reflecting our increased family confidence in La Jolla and the stability our district has been providing. So that was a really exciting number, and that number continues to build as well. So just also looking ahead on our key milestones, we are in April already, and pre-K registration is open and rolling, and we have kindergarten roundup underway. We are sending transfer notifications this week to families via email and mail as well. We are consistently verifying residency, and that progression is continuing on. In June, we are hoping to really sum up our impact of enrollment, outreach, and next steps of continuous improvement with the transfer. And then recruitment efforts, of course, are continuing underway through summer, and we are really proud of the outcomes that we did with our process this year and some of our key milestones that we made. So on that, any questions?
Members of the board?
Board President, I have a question.
Ms. Peña?
Ms. Candelario, for the students that are returning to the district, do we have any additional data that'll give us insights into how long they were gone? Is it 1 year and then they're coming back? And are these students that moved to neighboring districts? Do we know that information?
We have some information of where they're coming back from. We could look into how many years they have been gone, which could definitely be part of the impact report. But we do have where they have been. We've seen there was quite a bit of like Sherryland, Mission, when we were reviewing the specific schools. Those were the 2 areas that they were returning back from.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else? Would you say on page 37, it references the number of new students that have come back to the district? It was 145?
1:45.
Were the majority of those high school students that were coming from charter schools, our neighboring charter school in town?
I know what you're getting at.
I was
Yes.
wondering if they want to come back to play
Yeah.
football or something.
There was a mixture.
Okay.
It was definitely a mix. Like I said, Sherilyn Mission, we are receiving students back from IDEA.
Awesome.
So that is something that has
Great.
been coming up through that. And the phone calls I receive since I'm also part of student services. So we're getting our students back.
Good, that's good. That's good to hear. Anyone else? It's a good report. Thank you. Thank you very much for both of you. We're going to go ahead and move on, but before I do, let the record show that for minutes purposes, that Dr. Sorensen joined us at 6:12 p.m. this evening. Next item on the agenda is 6.2 Student Achievement Conditions, 1.1 Strategic Academic Interventions, Lone Star Goal. Dr. Little?
Yes, sir. So we are coming tonight to specifically give a look at how our 4 superintendent constraint schools have been doing thus far this year and provide an update on our North Star goal and some language cleanup that we need to do to our North Star goal. So we'll start with the superintendent constraints. Obviously, a big part of how we're pursuing all of what is the bedrock of LSG, which is our vision, our mission, our goals, and our GPMs, ultimately leading us to that place where we've got 90+% of students in A and B rated schools. So quick overview of what we have here. I'm going to show you data on our 4 constraint schools. As a reminder that Seguin and Garza are 2 ACE campuses, as well as Pena and Dr. Sines Middle School. We are going to see progress in general across these 4 campuses. You're going to see a bit more progress at the elementary level than we're going to see with Sines at the middle school level, but we are seeing progress nonetheless. And we're going to end by looking at how all of this relates to the North Star goal. So I'm actually going to lay out some scenarios for you in the community to establish a range of where we could end up this year based on our performance and what we're already seeing with these schools and the school actions. So, quick reminder, this constraint says the superintendent shall not allow conditions that decrease student achievement. So we're specifically looking at campuses who have had multiple years of D or F ratings. That's how those 4 schools were chosen as superintendent constraint schools this year, because they had those multiple years of low performance. Earlier this year, back in the fall, I talked to you about how we're specifically supporting these 4 schools. So just wanted to quickly remind us of what that looks like. Obviously, they get all the basic supports that every school gets. So when we talk about our use of high quality instructional materials, the spot checks that we're doing, the support from our partners, all of that applies to these schools as well. And there's 2 other things. Garza and Seguin are fully participating in the ACE, Accelerated Campus Excellence model. Quick shout out to Garza, because we learned in the last month that through the observations that TEA does, along with Texas Tech University, Garza is looking like the only new elementary ACE school in the state to be fully adhering to the ACE model in its first year of implementation. So we are incredibly grateful for and excited about what that school is doing.
Board President, may I?
Yes, Dr. Sorensen.
Can you say that one more time?
I sure can.
Just so that everyone has clarity on what La Jolla ISD is doing in comparison to the
I
state.
should give the microphone to Ms. Ortiz because she certainly has put in a lot of sweat equity into this. But Garza, let me back up one more second. As an official ACE campus means they got school action funding at Garza. Remember, we locally funded and sort of operated Seguin, but Garza was part of school turnaround from the state's perspective. They get outside observations and visits. Some of that is from Texas Tech University. Some of that is from staff at TEA. So they've had multiple people on site this year looking at what they're doing, and then they give us data back in a report. A few weeks ago, in one of our check-ins with them, we were told that Garza is looking like the only new elementary ACE campus in the state. There was something like 40, I believe, that is looking to implement all parts of the ACE model in its first year. So we're seeing the highest results from those observations and the best feedback in terms of program fidelity and implementation.
That's awesome.
So Dr. Little, before you proceed, you referenced Ms. Ortiz. Tell me what her involvement is. I mean, just share with us what she
Absolutely.
does.
Ms. Ortiz, Nidia Ortiz, you can wave at them and say hello. She is one of our executive directors of school leadership, but everybody on the academics and school leadership team always has another hat that they wear. And the other hat that she is wearing for us this year, and I get the letters wrong every time, but effectively she's serving as our turnaround lead from TEA and Regions 1 perspective. So you might remember when you approved the local improvement plans, turnaround improvement plans, and those action plans, the tip, tap, lip presentation that we gave with all the acronyms, she's really worked closely with all of those schools to put those plans together and to make sure that they are following through with implementation. For Garza, which has a TAP plan, a turnaround plan, it also has additional ACE requirements. She serves as that school's EDSL, which means she's the principal supervisor, but has also worked closely with TEA through the oversight and monitoring of ACE implementation at that school.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. Thank you very much. That was very nice of you, Dr. Little. That was very nice of you to acknowledge her work, so thank you for that.
Absolutely. Now, what I will say about Seguin is we have been doing the exact same structural work at Seguin. It doesn't get the extra visits because from TEA's perspective, it's not officially part of school actions. It will be for next year, though. We did get the grant for them for next year, so we'll get similar both support and monitoring in that way. But both schools have been doing ACE in a similar way this school year. Now, for all 4 schools, the far right column is an additional support that we provided to these campuses. It's called Breakthrough Results. It's a partnership with the District Management Group, which is a spinoff from a professor at Harvard who goes out and supports a variety of district and state efforts across the country, including here in Texas. And so what they've been doing is they've established specific teams within the campus that are getting coaching support on quick continuous improvement. So a quick example of this, say I'm a second grade teacher and I'm trying to get my students to be able to identify onset rhymes. So like the initial sound of words, and we're really struggling with that. I'm gonna set a quick goal for how many students I wanna make progress on that in the next 3 weeks. And these coaches aren't giving them feedback on how to better teach it. They're giving feedback on how to create a continuous improvement cycle with the data, testing and intervention, and seeing how it works. So all 4 schools have had teams going through that breakthrough results model thus far this year. And that's been an additional layer of support that we have put for these 4 superintendent constraint schools. We'll see the data in a second. I'll give you some more context on how that's playing out. So we're going to walk through each school individually. So they all have their own slide. This starts with Dr. Sines in the middle school. Just some orientation because every slide looks the same. We've got the 4 core content areas. So you'll see math, reading, science, and social studies data. This is specifically for the middle school, obviously looking at the STAR tested areas. So not every grade shows up for science and social studies. You've got 2 comparisons on these slides. So let's look at the top left for math. For example, we're looking at MAP data first. So that's looking at this year's middle of year results compared to last year's middle of year results. And then next to that, you have BM, which stands for benchmark. That's that practice STAR test that we took back in February, a fully released STAR test comparing again how we did this year to how we did last year. So we see in 8th grade that they've made progress year over year in 8th grade math. Haven't made the progress needed in 6th and 7th grade here. So that's been part of our ongoing focus of support for that school. Reading is a bit more mixed. 8th grade, again, more solid. This is true at the school in terms of what we have seen consistently as we've been on campus and as we've done spot checks. 6th and 7th grade is a bit mixed in reading. You've got 7th grade flat in benchmarks, down in MAP, and then both are down at the 6th grade level. Science and social studies, more positive overall. You see growth regardless of which assessment we're looking at. And in social studies, you see pretty strong growth, actually 10 points in 8th grade social studies. The other thing I want to remind us of right now is just a note about the benchmark itself. When we presented data, I think at the last meeting, we shared with you our benchmark comparisons year over year. That is a full STAR exam. So it's just like what students took today for reading, for example. And so for math, science, and social studies in particular, there are things on those STAR exams that haven't been taught yet. Like you just haven't gotten to them at that point in February, but it still is fairly an apples to apples comparison year over year, because that's generally true in each school year. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to see more positive things at the elementary level than we see at the middle school level. So as I go through the next 3 schools, you're going to start to see more green showing up overall on these slides. And we will start with Seguin. Again, this is one of our 2 ACE campuses. You see a ton of green on here, whether we're looking at MAP or we're looking at STAR benchmark. Obviously, calling out 3rd grade math is an area of focus for Seguin. We take that STAR exam in 2 weeks. We have been pushing hard with our campuses on how to make sure that they are very tightly and very acutely focused on exactly what students need in these final days and moments of preparation. So this is an example, like getting super clear with those 3rd grade students on what skills they need the most support with and ensuring that they're getting that. But again, you see overall here, 11 out of 13 tested areas are showing improvement at Seguin year over year. This is a school that had been declining for the last 3 academic years in the district, and so we can start to see that turn around. Garza is very similar. You've got improvement unequivocally in 10 out of 13 areas. You've got one area that's 5th grade reading where it looks super strong in MAP. It's flat in benchmarks, so we're calling that mixed. But again, you've got significant improvement here for our school, which was the lowest rated school in the district last year. So again, we've heard what you're doing with ACE is meeting the mark from a program standpoint, from outside perspective and observers, and we're seeing that data start to follow as well. And then the last one, Pena. This is not an ACE campus, but this was one of our superintendent constraint schools. You see improvement here in 9 out of 13 areas. So again, lots of green across the board. One thing I didn't say about the other 2, but just to explain the gray blanks for math and reading. Remember, we don't have benchmark data. We don't have STAR equivalent data in the K2 space. So that's why we're only showing the MAP data here as a comparison. So with that, I want to sort of land with what does that mean in terms of our North Star? And the first thing we want to do is do a little language cleanup here. So remember, our North Star goal is to get to 90% or more students attending A and B rated campuses. That's really the big thing that we are working to achieve in all of our work with our strategic plan over this 5-year period. When we first wrote this, it was before results last year. And so the way it's written, this is super technical, but the way it's written just isn't technically correct. And so the 90% focus is not changing. What we're doing is removing the increase by 6% point because that doesn't really reflect our starting point at where we are today. And so that's just what we wanted to acknowledge for the board and the community. We're still committed to 90% plus, but we're cleaning up the language to make that more clear about how we are really going about getting there. And then a couple of quick reminders for you on where we are now before we look at scenarios on where we can be. We've shared versions of this slide through our quality schools updates before, shared them through the school action plans as well. As we sit here today, based on last year's accountability results, 47% of our students are in A and B rated schools, thus the changing the 6% part in the language. So you see this on the left by student enrollment. You see it on the right by just raw distribution of campuses. The other thing we can notice and what we've seen through all of our data presentations thus far is the concentration of our low performing campuses is at the elementary level. If we look at where our DNF rated campuses are right now, that is concentrated primarily at the elementary level. Our school action work plus the ACE work that we're doing is certainly changing that. But that's where we are. The next slide, I'm going to come back to next steps in a minute, is showing you where we can be at the end of this year. There's quite a few things going on the slide, so let me just walk us through it. At the very top, you see current 25-26. That blue 47% is what I just showed you. 47% of students right now today are in A and B rated campuses. 25% of our students right now today are in D or F rated campuses based on last year's results. What we want to see is obviously that blue bar get as close to 100 as possible and the red bar get to 0. We don't want any students in D and F rated schools. Everything below the dotted line are different scenarios based on the results we may get for this school year. And they kind of build on each other. So we're going to go from top to bottom. The first thing that is already true, if nothing else changes, is the school action decisions that you approved automatically improve our A and B rate by 6 percentage points. So it moves us from 47 to 53 just with those school closures and reassignments. And it reduces the D and F rate from 25 to 17. So nothing else changes. No school gets better this year to next year. We've already made some progress towards that North Star goal with the school actions. That's obviously not sufficient and not enough and not what we're working for, though. So the next line is ACE campuses approved. So if just Garza and Seguin meet their wildly important goal this year, which is to go from F to C, you see that 53 stays the same because they didn't quite get to that A or B level, but the D and F rate drops to 12%. So we would have already cut in half the percentage of students at D and F rated campuses for next year with just the school action changes and both Garza and Seguin meeting their WIG. That gets better if La Jolla High School meets its WIG, which is to go back to a B-rated high school. We are pushing them real hard to get there. They are our only C-rated high school campus at this point. So if La Jolla High School alone gets back to a B, that adds 10 points to our North Star goal. So it jumps to 63. I reminded Principal Flores of that just a couple of days ago. And then we get to the no D and F school. So if every school currently rated D or F gets at minimum to a C, we eliminate any students at D and F campuses. We don't change the A and B rate because, again, they're at the C level. They didn't move into the A and B level yet, but we completely eliminate students at the lowest performing campuses for next year. Best case scenario is every student, or not every student, sorry, every campus meets their wildly important goal. We worked with campuses back in September and October to set some pretty ambitious goals for the year. So that's them defining, ultimately by grade level and content, but really at the campus level, here's where we want to be in our achievement. If every school in La Jolla ISD meets that wildly important goal, or WIG as you hear us call it, that'll increase us to 85% of students in A and B campuses with no students in D and F campuses. To every presentation I've given you in the last 2 months with that question mark on the right-hand side of the slide, we don't know if that's actually going to happen yet because we just started testing STAR today. We won't get the data until we sort of end the school year. But this is what we've been working on. We just wanted to better visualize for you in the community what that could mean in terms of outcomes and opportunities for our students. So with all of that said, as we mentioned, we are live in game time today. Students took STAR reading today. They take science and social studies next week, followed by math the third week of the month. Every single one of those days matters. Like, we are talking about this in terms of seconds matter, not just minutes and hours. Students showing up is super important. Attendance is critical. I'm very happy to say that our attendance has been quite good over the past couple of weeks, actually hitting 97, 98% attendance on some days. So thank you, families, for prioritizing your students being here, getting those last drops of instruction and opportunity. And then, as I mentioned last time, it doesn't end with STAR. We still have 5 weeks of school left when STAR is over. We have end of year MAP. We've got some other important things for high school students like AP exams, IB certification tests. And so we're going strong till the very end. And then to our earlier presentation, we're going to pick it up and keep working hard and have fun in the summer. But this gives you a sense of where we are right now and what our possibilities are for this school year.
Members of the board, any questions for Dr. Little? Dr. Little, so I've seen the videos promoting our upcoming tests that are taking place, and I thought it was really good how we were talking about nourishment and resting and all that. So what's the atmosphere like right now? I mean, people motivated? I mean, you're certainly motivated, so.
I'm really motivated. I
Take
want,
that energy with us. to
I
the
want
classroom.
real-time results. Like, I want to
Yes.
go log into the computer right now and see how
Yes.
we did today, and that's just not possible, unfortunately. I would say as we've been having conversations with principals, APs, teachers, as we've been on campus, folks are wanting to do their best. That's always been one of the bright spots about La Jolla ISD is people show up every day really wanting to do well for the students they serve. We have worked this year to tighten that focus to really understand what that means in terms of urgency. And so that's like ramped up more and more. But I think folks were really taking today seriously. Thankfully, we had a smooth administration of the test. Sometimes it's not always smooth. You can have computer issues. You can have lots of things going on. Thank you to Chief Mayasi and team, who's a big part of that. Like, that wasn't a problem today. And so students are going to come back tomorrow, shift gears a little bit into the next content, and we're going to keep going.
So obviously, when I was in elementary school, we didn't have such exams. So tell me, what do they, is it a Monday through Friday thing? Is it a Tuesday and Wednesday?
Very good question. That has changed a lot, and it's
Okay.
going to change again. So right now, what's true across Texas is these are really specific days that we set aside based on the content. So today was reading. So every 3rd through 10th grader today, including some 11th and 12th graders who had to redo it, we're taking the reading test. Next Tuesday, we'll do science and part of social studies. Next Thursday, we'll wrap up the rest of that suite. And then the following week on the 21st, we'll do math. The state sets up windows, so districts get to choose their specific days in that window. And we really try to be thoughtful about how we spread that out. Like, students can't just crank this out 3 days in a row and do super well. So that's why we do it over a 3-week period with space in between. It also helps better tailor the support specifically for that content area. So again, transitioning a bit today from reading more into science and social studies for next week. And those reading teachers still have value add in those spaces because students are still asked to write in science and social studies. And so that's reinforcement that, again, it's a whole team effort that our teachers and teams can provide.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that explanation. Anyone else?
Board President?
Yes, Dr. Sorensen?
So to add to the answer to your question about how people are feeling out there, Blanca and I have been doing the after the bell conversations quite a bit around the district. And so I'll build on your La Jolla High School example. So we were at La Jolla yesterday for after the bell conversations, and the preponderance of teachers that I met with were EOC teachers. I had some freshman teachers sitting there, English 1 and algebra, and then I had some US history teachers also sitting there, and they were confident. It was really great to have conversation with them. They over and over again, they felt like, my students are prepared. My students are ready. I feel really good about my kids this year. And so Blanca and I kept looking at each other like, all right. Because you don't always get that. Sometimes, a teacher will say, like, I don't know if these kids are ready this year and we've been doing everything, but overwhelmingly, so you hear that, Mr. Flores? Overwhelmingly, the teachers that I met with at La Jolla High School yesterday, and then were confident in their students' readiness and preparedness. And so when your teacher is confident, like, that's a different feel. And then today, we were at Camarena and Memorial, and again, we walked in, how did testing go today? Principal said, flawless. Flawless was the answer at Memorial. And the teachers felt really confident in all that they had put into students and all that, their students were ready to demonstrate. And again, Camarena, our A-rated campus from last year, nothing but the best. They again overwhelmingly felt really good about the administration and confident in the work that they had put in to prepare their students so that their students could demonstrate their knowledge. And so actually being out there right now, talking with teachers, being on campuses and really hearing how folks are feeling, it's really refreshing because most of the conversations have been about academics and instruction and really wanting to do their very best so that student outcomes improve.
That's exciting. That's great news as well. Dr. Little, thank you for all the work, and we continue to support you. Let us know if there's anything that we can support you with. And I mean, I was thinking about coming to the campus and just to see how it goes, because I've never been to one of these tests. But just to, acknowledge like what the students are doing, or are they in the classroom? But I think you've explained it well.
We'll be happy to set one up if you want to take
No,
one.
because I'm afraid I might have to take the test, and I am not prepared. So thank you, Dr. Little. Yeah, I don't want somebody agreed. All right, thank you, Dr. Little. Looking forward to the results. Next item on the agenda, 6.3, Lone Star Governance, our time use tracker report, March 2025, March 25th, 2026, and this will be done by Mari Elizondo. Mari?
Good evening, President Alvarez, Dr. Sorensen, members of the board, public present, and those tuned in. I am pleased to present the March 25th Time Use Tracker Report. This work is grounded in accordance with the Lone Star Governance Framework, which is continuous improvement model of governing teams, board and superintendent, who choose to focus intensely and unapologetically on one primary objective, improving student outcomes. As part of this implementation of LSD and student outcome-focused governance approach, we intentionally monitor meeting time to prioritize discussions on student outcomes, track progress towards board goals, and assess the adult actions that influence those outcomes. So for the March 25th meeting, please refer to the blue column on the left side of the report, which reflects time dedicated to student outcomes. As shown in the report, we spent 19 minutes of the meeting time on goals 1 through 3 and associated goals progress measures, including benchmark data presented by Dr. Little. Sorry. So now please refer to the green column, which reflects the time spent on adult behavior minutes, totaling 51 minutes in this category. So moving on to the center of the report, the total meeting time is recorded as 114 minutes. Overall, 61.40% of the meeting time was devoted to student outcomes and adult behavior minutes combined, which 16.67% specifically focused on student outcome minutes. So with this, we conclude the March 25th Time Use Tracker Report, reflecting the board's continued commitment to aligning its work with improving student outcomes in accordance with LSD. Do we have any questions?
Members of the board, any questions? No. Dr. Sorensen, you have anything you want to add?
No, thank you, Mari, for doing this. You're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madi. Thank you very much. And thank you for reminding us about the importance of reporting student outcomes during these meetings that we have. Next agenda item is our closed session. Oh, yes, excuse me. Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me get to that portion. Yes. Thank you very much, Vice President Peña. Our next agenda item is 7. We will now move into the consent agenda item. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, the next item on the agenda is our closed session. This closed meeting will be held for the purposes authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.001, 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.076, 551.129, and 551.0821 concerning any and all purposes permitted by the act, including but not limited to the sections of purposes listed below. We are now going into closed session, and it is 7:16 p.m. Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, we are back from closed session, and it is 7:27 p.m. Item number 10 is action and discussion item. 10.1, hearing to consider recommendation on independent hearing examiner regarding proposed termination of Pedro Soreta pursuant to board policy DFD. The board may now go into closed session to deliberants and discuss this matter with legal counsel pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.074. The time now is 7:28 p.m. On the evening of April 8, 2026, and the Board of Managers of the La Jolla Independent School District is convened in open session at the request of Pedro Soreta Jr. to hear oral arguments in the matter of La Jolla ISD versus Pedro Soreta Jr., Texas Education Agency docket number 057-LH-12-2025 before the independent hearing examiner Javier Gonzalez. The purpose of the hearing is to allow the board to hear and consider oral arguments from both the administration and the employee, Mr. Pedro Soreta Jr., in the matter of proposed termination of Mr. Soreta's Chapter 21 term contract. As a reminder, the board voted to propose the termination of Mr. Soreta's contract at its meeting on November 19, 2025. Mr. Soreta timely requested a hearing before an independent hearing examiner appointed by the Texas Education Agency. The evidentiary hearing took place on January 16, 2026 and February 24, 2026. After consideration of the evidence and arguments of both parties, the hearing examiner issued its findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendations to the board. The board has had an opportunity to review the record of the hearing and the hearing examiner's decision prior to tonight's meeting. Ms. Selena Vincent from the law firm of Thompson & Horton, LLP, is present to advise the board. For the record, will the administration's representative please identify themselves?
Good evening, President Alvarez. I will be presenting on behalf of the administration. Just to correct what you stated, Mr. Jaime Garcia is here to advise the board during the hearing. I will be acting as the representative for the administration in this role.
Thank you very much for the clarification. And who is present on behalf of the employee?
Carlos Garcia on behalf of Pedro Soreta.
Thank you very much. You got it. Thank you. Are we ready? We will proceed. At this time, I will outline the procedure to be followed for this hearing. Pursuant to board policy DFD local, both the administration and the employee will be allowed 10 minutes to present oral arguments to the board, beginning with the administration. Policy DFD local provides the administration may reserve a portion of its time for a rebuttal argument. I will serve as the timekeeper. When your time expires, I will signal you and you must stop your presentation. After the conclusion of the oral arguments, the board may ask clarifying questions to either party. Members of the board are not subject to questioning by the presenters. Neither is either party. All arguments and questions are being transcribed by a certified court reporter. When presentations and questions are concluded, the board will excuse the parties and convene in closed session with its attorney to receive legal advice regarding this matter. The board's consultation with its attorneys is confidential and will not be transcribed by the court reporter. At this time, I will ask that all of those present silence their cell phones before we proceed with the meeting. Are there any questions before we begin? By law, the board's decision on this matter must be based on the contents of the record of the hearing before the independent hearing examiner and the arguments presented at tonight's hearing. Is there any board member who feels that he or she is unable to render a fair and impartial decision based on the record and the parties' arguments that will be shown tonight? Okay. We will now receive oral arguments. Would the administration like to reserve any time for rebuttal?
Yes, please. I'd like to reserve 2 minutes.
Yes. So Dr. Sorensen will be keeping time. You will have 2 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay. Got it?
So it is noted that you will have 2 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Okay, you may proceed. Again, you do have 10 minutes.
Okay. Members of the board, good evening. So I don't need to talk into the microphone then? Okay. Good evening. I am here on behalf of La Jolla ISD to summarize the evidence that was presented before the independent hearing examiner regarding the district's proposed termination of Mr. Zarita. As you heard President Alvarez just say, your decision is confined to what the record holds, and the record is before you in a very thick binder. Unfortunately, I am not going to obviously go through every single exhibit, but I will tell you that the independent hearing examiner who was tasked with reviewing the evidence did actually consider all of this, listen to 5 witnesses, including Mr. Zarita, and made his determination and his recommendation, which I believe is the most important thing you have, because it summarizes that testimony and that evidence. That is going to be your last exhibit that I want to refer you to. It's exhibit number 29. And again, what the hearing examiner was tasked with doing was listening to the evidence fairly, following the law, and then coming up with a recommendation. His recommendation is that there is good cause to terminate Mr. Zarita. And that is based on the facts that Mr. Zarita showed incredibly poor judgment in his interaction with the student, whose name we're not going to say because she's entitled to privacy, confidentiality under FERPA, and because of the sensitive nature of what she went through during this altercation incident with Mr. Zarita. The student was in his general math class. Mr. Zarita is a math teacher, probably a very good math teacher. He's assigned to general math classes and also upper level advanced math classes. On this particular day, an incident with this young lady, Mr. Zarita decided to get out his telephone and personally record the student. You actually have a recording. The recording, you can view it. It's very short. You can go back with the attorney and review the recording. You're allowed to look at all the evidence. Got very close to this student as she was attempting to solve a math problem. It is clear on the video, she's very uncomfortable trying to solve the math problem. She's having a lot of difficulty, and it is what some would consider or classify a very simple problem. It was addition, okay? She, I believe, is in the 11th grade. And you can hear Mr. Zarita saying, come on, you can do it, come on, you don't know what that is, And he talks in English and Spanish, and in Spanish he says to her, I'm not recording you. And she hears that and believes him because he's her teacher. And you could tell she's saying, I'm not good at math, my math is not mathing today, I can't do it. He kind of, chuckles a little bit.
And then she finally does it, and he says, hey, see, there you go, you got it. Well, as if that wasn't bad enough, the next day during his AP class, when that student was not present, and in that class, he shared that video of that student. Shared that video to his AP class and remarked, don't be like this student. On the video, you can't see the student's close-up face, but you can see her body, you can hear her voice, you can see parts of her face, you can see her hands. Well, of course, people in that AP class, students, recognized her. And of course, students in that AP class shared with the other students who it was. So then, of course, those students went and made fun of this young lady because she couldn't solve the math. Add insult to injury, as the student is walking by Mr. Zarita's class, the day he displays it to his AP class, he says to her in a laughing voice, you're going to be TikTok famous. TikTok famous for not being able to solve a math problem. TikTok famous for an incident that occurred where she should feel safe, protected. She was clearly vulnerable, and he took advantage of that. The hearing examiner heard from her. I can tell you it was difficult. She was upset. The day that she found out that that video was portrayed and displayed to other students, she went to the bathroom crying and called her mother. Her mother immediately came up to school and demanded to talk to Mr. Zarita. Luckily, staff had the good knowledge to say, not a good idea. We're not going to let that happen. And then the student didn't come to school for several days. Mom was crushed. Mom testified. Mom was worried about her daughter. Mom was angry. How could that teacher do that to my daughter? What if that video went viral? Why was he recording her? Lots of questions and no answers. No answers. And what you're going to see is that in this recommendation, the hearing examiner outlines for you, because remember, he is doing this to recommend to the board. He has to go through the law and check off, does this meet the good cause that you are required to have to terminate Mr. Zarita's contract? And he said yes. So he identifies what violations there are, what legal violations Mr. Zarita is responsible for by taking the actions he took. And he identifies on page 14, you don't have to look at it now, but if you want to write that down, you can go back, like I said, in closed session. Page 14, paragraph 40, the Texas Education Code, section 26009, requires district employees to gain parental approval before making a video of a student. That didn't happen. That's paragraph 40. Paragraph 41, La Jolla ISD's employee handbook and the Educators Code of Ethics requires employees to recognize and respect the rights of students. That didn't happen. Clearly, there was no respect for this young lady when he went and portrayed and displayed that video. Really no respect for her for getting up that close to her and recording her struggling in a place where she should be learning, in a place where it should be a positive environment. Hearing examiner writes, this is not a legal section of a code. He writes himself, this is his verbiage, recording a high school student struggling to perform basic math computations and showing that video to her peers is not respectful to the student. Not obtaining parental consent is also a violation. Paragraph 42, La Jolla ISD's employee handbook and Educators Code of Ethics prohibit employees from intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly treating a student or minor in a manner that adversely affects or endangers the learning, physical health, mental health, or safety of the student. There was no doubt based on the evidence, and you can tell that the hearing examiner found that the student's mental health was affected. La Jolla ISD Employee Handbook and Educators Code of Ethics require employees like Zarita, and this is actually in the Code of Ethics, to maintain appropriate professional educator-student relationships and boundaries based on a reasonably prudent educator standard.
Ms. Vincent, your time is up.
Okay.
Again, you do have 2 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you. And then he follows that with respondent failed to maintain appropriate educator-student
Ms.
boundaries.
Vincent, your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, reminder that you do have 2 minutes for a rebuttal.
Yes, thank you, sir.
So, Mr. Garcia, or the attorney or the employee's attorney representative, which would be Mr. Garcia or Mr. Zurita, either one of you can go ahead and make the 10 minutes. Mr. Garcia, do you have time that you would like to leave for rebuttal?
No, Your Honor.
Sure, I'll take it. I'll take the honor thing. Would you like time for rebuttal, sir?
Mr. President, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
But I will need a moment just to set this up.
Yes, sir. Get that for you.
Okay. I've got a little timer up here.
Yes, sir.
Get started.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. Mr. Zurita, thank you. I'm ready.
Okay, you may proceed, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you. I'd like to begin with the PowerPoint there. And the question before you is, just because good cause was found by the hearing examiner does not thereby mean that the school board has to follow the recommendation of the superintendent. I don't want you to think that because the independent hearing examiner found good cause or found that the school district had good cause does not mean that you have to follow the recommendation. Mr. Zurita executed a letter of resignation at my office earlier this week. The school district refused to accept it through its attorney. The details in this are going to matter. I had planned for 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to try to condense it into the 10. The sequence of events, Mr. Zurita exercises right to due process. The IHE makes findings that good cause exists. The sequence of events, this is something that Mr. Zurita has been teaching with the only school district he's ever known for the last almost 20 years. This would have been his 20th year. Before you today are some of the students that have had him as their teacher, some of his family members that are here, because the same way that this could have gone viral and blown up for the minor, the 11th grader, it blew up for Mr. Zurita as well. Because what people heard and what people saw is Mr. Zurita was recording a female teacher. Even Ms. Herrera, you will learn, based on the testimony and the evidence before you, thought that this was some sort of inappropriate recording of a female student. And you will learn and you will see in the evidence before you that she was relieved when she found out that it was a student solving a math problem. On September 15th, Mr. Zurita records. You'll be able to watch the video back, but there's a screenshot of it there. In effect, that's all you see. He played that video, and this is where he made the mistake. On Tuesday the 16th, he plays the video for an AP class. Imagine a classroom full of high school students. Think about the noise that's going on there. He sees students that are copying off of one another, and he makes a lapse in judgment and shows it to them and said, don't be like this student. Didn't play the whole video. One of the students in the class probably recognized the student's purse that was on the floor and says, Zurita's showing us you solving a math problem. People panic. Parents panic, and the school district orders Ms. Alanis Herrera to send Mr. Zurita to central office. Ms. Alanis Herrera is relieved. This is her own testimony. I saw the first few seconds of it. It was handwriting, I guess, of solving a problem, and then he went to HR because that's what she was told to do. So I think that when Mr. Said that she was embarrassed. You're here because a student got embarrassed. That's why Mr. Zurita is being sought to be terminated. Think about that. How many students do you have? How many kids are going to be embarrassed and come before you for termination? Is that how low the bar is going to be for you all to terminate someone? Think about that before you do it. You have no evidence that Mr. Zurita did this in order to embarrass a child, correct? The principal on the campus, correct. He talked about the discussion. I have kids that are struggling with you. Mr. Zurita had previously, just 2 weeks before, spoken to Ms. Alanis Herrera. I have kids that cannot do simple math. She didn't believe him. He recorded this initially in order to show her that there are kids that are struggling. She acknowledged that in her testimony. In fact, he's encouraging her to solve the math problem. Isn't that correct? Correct. Eventually, she does solve the math problem. The problem here is he went and showed it to the next class. He should have never done that. We accept that. He accepts that. He accepted it in his testimony. You would agree that in that recording, the student is not identified, correct? Correct. How many times, in this case, how many times did the teacher record a student? Have you been trained to respond to a situation like that? Not to my knowledge. You would agree that walking a student through a math problem in regular classroom instruction, the recording, is that evidence that Mr. Zurita was walking a student through a math problem? I would agree with that. You would agree that finding qualified teachers, especially in math, is not an easy thing. I agree with that. You were never able to follow with progressive discipline instruction motives, like growth plans that most teachers get, the benefit of putting 20 years into education. Mr. Zurita was cut off at the head. He was sent to HR, sent home, and never allowed to come back because someone was embarrassed. You could have given him a corrective action plan, a growth performance improvement plan. In this case, you didn't even have the option because that option was taken from you. I was told to send him to central office. She never saw him again, never spoke to him again. And in fact, the second recommendation that you're going to see from the IHC in what the attorney for the school district spoke to you about recommends that the school district and administration take progressive measures rather than terminating someone that has 20 years of experience. I'm sorry. So any of these progressive discipline methods that are available to the school district, they were not followed. Not by me, sir. Verbal warning? No. Written warning? No. Corrective action plan? No. My question to you is specific. How many times since he's begun, think about this. He's been out of that classroom since September. How many times have they had a certified teacher? For the most part, no. Those kids in all 7 of those periods do not have a certified math teacher. Think about that. His evaluations, 2022, 23, 24, 25, distinguished, accomplished. It's in the evidence before you. Accomplished. Mr. Leonel Perez was his former principal. The learning environment in his classroom, accomplished. Communication, distinguished. Classroom environment, distinguished. Accomplished. Do 20 years not matter? One lapse in judgment over 48 hours is cause for termination? I submit to you that it's not. Teacher creates a fun and respectful environment that encourages risk-taking and peer recognition, right? This is in the evidence before you. These are his evaluations. Accomplished, distinguished. We go on and on and on. He testifies, Mr. Zurita testifies. I'm going to rush through this because I'm running out of time. He testifies on his own behalf. He says he didn't play the entire video. He doesn't even think half of the kids, the majority of the kids didn't even hear it. But the ones who did, mind you, at the hearing, before the hearing examiner, not one student, not one person who was in that class came to testify about what was actually played. The only human being that did that was Mr. Zurita himself. Mr. Leonel Perez, who worked with him as a principal and as an assistant principal, was in charge of math, speaks about Mr. Zurita's character. He's good for kids. I was an assistant principal. He worked there for 12 years before he retired. He was in charge of the math department. If someone told you that Mr. Zurita intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly embarrassed a student, would you believe it? No. Someone that was relatable to students? Yes. Someone that would harm a student's feelings? No. Would he knowingly harm a student's feelings? No, sir. Would he recklessly harm a student's feelings? No. As to Mr. Zurita's character, his character as a teacher, as a person that you've known for what you've testified 12 years, based on his character, is it someone that you believe is good or bad for children? He's good for kids. And after today, based on the superintendent's recommendation, he's going to be terminated. Why? Because the school district won't accept his resignation. Why? Because he exercised his right to due process, to have a hearing. He's ready to resign. I'm asking you to accept that resignation. What changed? What changed from leading up to the hearing where if he resigned, we could have walked away? What changed other than a hearing examiner say we have good cause? Just because you have good cause does not mean you have to exercise it. Show some independence based on the evidence before you. You have the ability, each of you individually and all of you collectively have that authority, and no one can tell you otherwise. In the IHC's recommendation, I'm going to read from it. There's two recommendations for you all to consider. Recommended that the Board of Managers, Trustees of La Jolla Independent
Mr.
School
Garcia,
District.
your 10 minutes are up. So
Okay.
thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. Garcia.
Appreciate it.
We do have 2 minutes for Ms. Vincent's rebuttal. Again, let me remind Ms. Vincent, you do have 2 minutes. We will let you know when to start. Mhm. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Give me 1 second. We'll
It's okay.
talk really fast.
No rush.
I'm ready.
Okay, you may proceed.
Okay, again, I'm going to refer to the recommendation. The hearing examiner considered everything Mr. Garcia just presented to you and specifically said in page 20, paragraph 61, the IHE finds respondents' lack of admission to having exercised poor judgment under these set of facts bears on his credibility. There was a lack of admission. He didn't admit and want to resign until the IHE found good cause, until the student had to testify and get up and relive that whole thing. The IHE also says it has nothing to do with competence and need for keeping such a strong teacher seen in respondent, Mr. Zurita. Contriteness would go a long way and may have in inviting possible remediation and progressive discipline by the district, short of proposing termination. Didn't happen here. He also said, the IHE finds, based on the record before him, there is a serious failing on the part of Mr. Zurita. The ordinary prudent employee would have avoided doing what Zurita did with no consent from parents. IHE is unmoved by respondent's suggestion that lesser remedial measures should have been taken. Precedent supports the premises there is no right to remediation. The average employee would not have made the serious mistake made here. IHE considered all of that, and those were his findings and determination. And by the way, to suggest that Mr. Zurita is somehow the victim, the testimony that you have before you also shows that the student was bullied by students because of the fact that Mr. Zurita's contract was proposed for termination. So not only did she endure the embarrassment, the bullying about the video, hopefully none of the students here in this room were the ones who actually bullied her and made her feel like it was her fault that Mr. Zurita is in this position, but it's Mr. Zurita's fault. And for that, I ask, and I recommend that I ask that you adopt the hearing examiner's recommendation that Mr. Zurita be terminated.
Thank you, Ms. Vincent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your 2 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, board members may ask clarifying questions of either party. Because the board's decision must be based on the record before the board, questions should be limited to issues that are already reflected on the record. The board may not engage in additional fact-finding during tonight's hearing. If either party is aware of evidence in the record that would be responsive to any board member's question, the party may direct the board to that evidence or testimony as appropriate. At this time, do I have any board members that have any questions for either Mr. Garcia, Mr. Zurita, or for Ms. Vincent? Seeing that we have no questions from the board, and having heard from both parties and allowed both the board an opportunity to ask questions, tonight's hearing is now concluded. The time is
7:57.
7:57 p.m. The board will now go into closed session to consult with its legal counsel pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071 and 551.074. The board will reconvene in open session to take action, if any, on this matter. We will now go into closed session. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back from closed session. It is
9:31.
9:31 PM. Do I have a motion regarding action item 10.1?
I move to adopt the hearing examiner's findings of fact and conclusions of law that good cause exists to terminate Pedro Zurita's contract with the district.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item number 11, calendar. Month of April is Autism Month, School Library Month, National Poetry Month, and Annual Elementary Field Day Month. April 15th, Purple Up Day for military kids. April 15th, District Safety and Security Committee meeting. April 20th through the 24th, Public School Volunteer Week. April 21st, Title III Parent and Community Engagement. April 22nd, Administrative Professionals Day. April 22nd, regular board meeting will be our next time we will be having a meeting here. Do I have any comments or any remarks from the board before we adjourn?
I'd like to wish all of our students that have participated in their first STAR test, or there's just the STAR, good luck and just show us what you've learned all this year. Thank you.
Any other members? Dr. Little, thank you for sharing today's presentation. You certainly have motivated us. I feel very confident that our kids are ready and prepared. And after hearing from what Dr. Sorensen has said and yourself regarding the preparation that has taken place since last year, it's led up to where we're at, and I'm very excited. And I think our kids are well prepared for the tests that they're taking. So I wanted to thank you and your staff. Please convey that to the rest of the folks that you work with. And to the rest of you, thank you for everything, for your continued support. Like I continue doing those videos. I like watching them. They're good videos, and to all of you that come out, and I watch all of you. So I haven't seen you in any of the videos yet, but I would look forward to seeing that. Do we have any other, anything else that we want to bring to the board before we adjourn? Dr. Sorensen, any closing remarks?
Yes, thank you very much, Board President. First and foremost, again, I want to echo Board Member Ochoa's warm wishes to our students. It is incredible to just watch you in classrooms thrive this year. And so this is your opportunity to show us all that you've learned, because I have seen you blossom and thrive in all of my school visits. And so wishing you the very best, and the opportunity to just once again show them who we are. And thank you to the teachers and campus leaders who create the environment by which students learn and grow and have the ability to demonstrate exactly how fabulous and brilliant they are. So thank you to everyone for supporting that environment. And with that, I do want to acknowledge that it is Assistant Principals Week. And so as a part of making sure that our campuses are thriving and great places for our students, I really want to take a moment and thank our assistant principals. Assistant principals, I say it all the time, they're co-principals. And so what they do sometimes often doesn't get recognized in a way that it should. And because, we turn to the campus leader and we turn to the principal. Meanwhile, the assistant principals are running around doing all the things behind the scenes. And so assistant principals, you guys are incredible. You make the principal's job possible. And please know that you are our future pipeline. And so we look forward to continuing to grow and develop our assistant principals to becoming our next wave of campus leaders. So thank you so much. We recognize you and we appreciate you. Thank you, Board President.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sorensen. Marty, if you would do me a favor and please inform the kitchen staff that we're very grateful for the food and the meals that they prepare for us every board meeting. And to the folks that prepare us for today's meeting, whether it's Blanca's team or the custodians and all that, please thank them for making this look so nice. Like I've informed my board and many of those that I work with, I always look at other board meetings and how it's conducted, and I'm always really impressed with what we do here as a team. And so I thank my board for your continued support and of course supporting our superintendent, and thank all of you for everything you do for our students. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn this meeting at 9:36.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We are adjourned.